All right, everybody, welcome back to the Blacksmith Podcast. We are going to wrap up this Palantir call here in part 3. Now, you just heard from Alex Karp in part 2 and how confident he was in the company. You heard in part 1 and half of part 2 all of the numbers they threw out about revenue growth. But I will tell you what, I'm excited to hear from. This is probably CFO, CTO, Chief Technology Officer, and then one other one. So I'm excited to hear from them. Let's do it.
Thank you, Alex. We'll now turn to questions from our shareholders before opening up the call. We received a few questions asking, what do you see as Palantir's unique differentiator that others may not understand?
Well, Alex mentioned a bit of this here. It's become fashionable actually for lots of companies to start hiring FDEs. The Financial Times had an article about how it's the most popular new job title. But what you see is that they don't really understand it. It's just mimetic. And everything Alex you said, like, we build software that works, not software that ought to work. We build software for the world as it exists, not a world that never was. And this ability to find what's true, that comes from the FDE. Our measure of success is not did we sell the software, it's did we solve the problem. And we have built an entire software stack over 2 decades downstream of creating value for our customers. That led to the ontology more than a decade ago, which is a fundamental prerequisite to getting value out of LLMs in the enterprise. And this past year, it led to AI Hivemind and AI FDE.
The other thing, which is implicit in that, is the way we work forces us to go up the chain of complexity every day. So we're taking on the most painful, most integral, most valuable parts of the stack in every enterprise. And it's precisely because that's the way we actually lever our ability to deploy and orchestrate FDEs. That's the way we make our product stronger. And quite frankly, that's the way we produce these numbers, because the closer you are to the front line of the very complex problem that a black box was not meant to solve, cannot solve, and at this point everyone knows a joke to believe it could solve, that's where you, and by the way, it's the safest position for us, because this company, we will always believe that we are outsiders. We need to be in the place where the most valuable problem is being solved, because that's the way we end up solving the problem tomorrow, and the way we get paid.
Thank you both. Our next question is from Dan with Wedbush. Dan, please turn on your camera, and then you'll receive a prompt to unmute your line.
Flatbush, let's go. New York.
And then with the actually.
Mr. Dan Ives, we don't see you.
Well,
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, great. Look, obviously another monster quarter for you guys. Congrats. So my question for you is, for Alex and the team, what can you just walk through just the accelerated sales cycles that you're seeing from so many companies that have gone to the boot camps? Like, what surprised you from when they come to you at that first sort of, contact to now actually launching deals? I mean, maybe you could talk about that just in terms of everything you're seeing anecdotally.
Yeah, so DSCR loans. So this is an interesting loan type.
Sorry,
It's
guys.
called debt service coverage ratio.
All right, here we go.
Great, thanks, Dan. So I think, we look at U.S. commercial. We closed 1.3 billion in TCV. That's 6x on a dollar-weighted duration basis from what it was a year ago. And of those deals, 83 were worth $1 million or more, 40 were $5 million or more. 21 deals were $10 million or more. I've been involved in a lot of those directly. I'm feeling exactly what you're asking on the ground from customers. And what's happening now is from the C-suite across the company, customers are coming to us looking to not just say, let's do a use case. The customers where we're having the most impact are coming to us saying, how do we deploy this across our entire organization? How do we reorganize our entire organization around Palantir and AIP? And that's what's happening on the ground. And we're singularly focused on delivering the value to the customers, and that's our go-to-market. How do we get the product to them and deliver the value?
Where Ryan is like...
So real quick, he sounds like the CFO. He sounds like the money guy. And the first guy who spoke after Alex here on Alex's, as you're looking at Alex on his left, on Alex's right with the black hair, he sounds like the technology officer.
Really very much on the front line here is, there's both how many customers approach you. I think where we're seeing the biggest shift is the customers who've approached us very quickly want to move to how would I change my enterprise to express it in a way that's most valuable according to my terms in your product? And then literally want to reorg. A shorthand version that we often use is you used to have to take your company private to change the unit economics of it. Basically, just like we're providing venture results, high-end venture results to normal investors in the last couple of years, what we're doing actually in enterprises is providing a private equity-like transformation in the public markets, in the public space, under the current leadership. And that's essentially what our best, and by the way, the other thing Ryan would tell you about is our newer clients have much higher expectations of us. Like they're like, essentially, I want to transform my business. I want to do it in months. I want to do it in the public eye while being in the public market, mostly, not exclusively. And I want you to not only do the product side, but also tell us, how would you actually implement AI, Foundry, Ontology, FDE model, and our tribal knowledge to do that? And, you know, it's a completely different game. We used to have to beg and plead to be, like, you know, when we first started talking, we were begging and pleading to be at the margin of a problem that could affect a subset of the business. By the way, Shyam, you know, it's like, unfortunately, he can only tell you 1% of what he's involved in, but this is like exactly the same in the US government around the world. It's like the things that we're sitting on and working on are like crazy, crazy important, and they're not downstream of the problem, they are the problem, and we're reshaping them.
All right, so what he's talking about there, Shyam Sankar, he is the chief technology officer. He is saying that he can only disclose so much because this company does a lot with government contracts, and he talked about working with operators. He's talking about Navy SEALs, the operational community, Navy SEALs, the SWIC guys, the EOD guys, the explosive ordnance disposal. So that stuff, that kind of stuff is top secret. It's not just secret, it's top secret. That's why he can't say it. Even if it was secret, if you don't have the right clearance and the need to know for it, then he couldn't disclose it anyway. So he's saying that there's so much more that they are involved in that they can't disclose. Also, he did say that usually companies will have to take their company back private in order to fully do like a paradigm shift within the company. He's saying they're doing that paradigm shift under their current leadership, and they're still public. And they're giving like pre-IPO returns on the money. And I can attest, yes, they are. However, I would have liked to have been an accredited investor prior to Palantir IPOing, because I would have been all over it. Or even when they IPO'd, I wish I'd have been on that. I didn't know about them until like 2 years ago, you know. So I wish I'd have known. Let me see. When did they IPO? Longer than 5 years ago. Yeah. 2020. Okay. So they've been around for a while. So I wish I had known. Anyway, let's keep it going.
Thank you both. Our next question is from Mariana with Bank of America. Mariana, please turn on your camera and then you'll receive a prompt to unmute your line.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
So I'm going to do, as usual, a couple of questions, one on commercial, one on defense or government. On commercial, I'd like to follow up to Dan's question. And let's see if you can discuss what changed from a behavioral perspective, from a customer's perspective, to see this accelerated appetite to incorporate Palantir, to not only accelerating how many customers you have, but also the existing customers go up the value chain. And what changed internally as well? We recently saw in a visit these like AI agents or AI FTEs, like how are you incorporating tech internally to be able to accelerate and catch up with that demand? And on the government side, US government up 50% plus is really impressive. And how do you think about opportunities like Golden Dome going forward, piling up to this?
Well, you guys want to answer these questions? I think that there's the external one, which is like, what does it feel like? That's clearly you. The internal one is a really subtle question, and I don't know, anyone should jump in there, and then obviously should have Shyam opine on, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you want to start with commercial or?
Sure. Yeah. I think on the external, I think it's like going deeper and deeper and more like tangible results with customers where but there's a network effect incoming, like customers sharing impact that we're having and direct impact we're having with customers. Customers are seen as it's a continuation of what we've been doing, but going deeper and deeper with the customers on that impact. And I think that, what we're seeing is more and more are now coming to us saying, and the ones that are most impactful are coming to us saying, let's do more.
Ryan is our best at being a wonderful, well, I'll just give a vulgar version here. Our clients realize the choices suck, basically, and they've tried a lot of stuff. It hasn't worked. And then we're in so many verticals. Let's just say we're in vertical 252 and we dominate for one customer. People see that. And then they're like, oh, well, I'll try this with some, I don't know, knockoff, half fake thing. It's just like, and then a lot of people really still don't understand that are still trying to do this long migration where, LLMs are going to perform as if they're LLMs and ontology and as if the LLMs were not a commodity. But then in the marketplace, they see the final result of someone else using ontology, Foundry, FDE. And now it's like, wait a minute, I'm paying hundreds of millions of dollars and getting nothing. And the person down the road I kind of look down on is way ahead of me and their unit economics are transforming overnight. And that just shifts the whole conversation. Because then we're like, okay, well, if you want it to work, you're going to have to do these 5 things. And these things are like, you're going to have to talk to Ryan and you're going to have to, occasionally meet with me. And you're going to have to actually allow us to come in with engineers. And we're going to have to actually work on the problems that are valuable for your business and also look at the costs that are dragging you down. By the way, the cost for most businesses is not just the actual money they're wasting. That wasted money creates an ecosystem of waste. They're talking to all these vendors all the time about all these things that will never work instead of solving the problem. And so getting the pathogens out of their business is a real issue. And now they're really, really interested in this. And then on the internal front, I would say, it's just, we have to double down. The most important thing for us internally is, with all this success, we do not want to give up the unique attributes of Palantir and somehow purchase fake ways for us that are artificial for us. And so making sure we are very, very close to the problem and making sure everyone here, like if you heard our internal dialogue, it's much more like, who's on the factory floor here? What are we doing internally? How do we make sure our products are better and better? How do we make sure, say Shyam, who's a savant at going around and figuring out what the underlying tech issue is? How do we making sure we have the best product team and the very, very exact right fit for every single deployment across our deployments that we care about, especially mission deployments, which we highly, highly overvalue in terms of our time and energy. And how do you make sure Palantir stays as tribal and cultish and unique as it was 20 years ago? How do we double and triple down on that? And how do we recruit the right people? And then internally we power ICE, we power efforts to defend America and Ukraine, and with allies. We're on the front line of all adversaries, including vis-a-vis China. And we support, we're at ICE, and we've supported Israel. Okay, these are very controversial. I don't know why this is all controversial, but many people find that controversial. Okay, so how do you align people to focus on these things in a way that is actually beneficial for us and our clients? These are really hard and tricky issues that we spend a lot of time. I would say, as an overarching thing, because what we found is the more we focus on our internal dynamics, the better our numbers are. That's why we have less salespeople and we have 77% growth in 75% of our market, 121% growth in US Comm. Please tell that to some of your friends. I don't even understand how they can look at these numbers and not drop the key out of their Motel 6 and just say, they're bombastic numbers. But it's like internal focus.
The first wave of
All right,
the AI.
look, let me tell you something. So the guy who is speaking, his name is Ryan. He is the chief revenue officer. I just looked it up. He sounds like the money man. The CFO, that is because he's probably a component of the CFO, because he is the CRO. So listen, he got cut off, and I don't think he's slighted by it. Alex said, look, he's just being nice with how he's saying it. He said, look, what stimulated our what did she say, accelerated growth was they looked around at the competition and the other companies suck. That's basically what he just said. And he said a lot more than that, and he keeps going back to the numbers. See, I love how passionate he is about his company. That's about as passionate of a CEO as you're going to find, because he actually believes in what they're doing and their mission. He even said helping out ICE Ukraine in Israel is seen as like hush hush or controversial. He said he doesn't even know why it's controversial, because they are solving problems. So he believes he's taking the emotion out of the situation and all the wokeness out of the situations. He's saying they presented us with a problem to solve for Israel. We solved it. We are solving it, right? They presented us with one for Ukraine. We solved it. We are solving it. So he is very binary in his thinking when it comes to here's a question, here's an answer, and that's it. Oh shoot, hold on.
On the internal side with AIFDE, that's why we actually originally built it. You know, our headcount has grown roughly 10%, but revenue grew 63%. How are we doing that? You know, we've made our FDEs wildly more productive. And I mean, so much so that we decided to give it to our customers, and we've started to make our customers more productive. When you have a note like the Army Vantage note, where the Army's consolidating into the Army data platform, you now have an army, literal army of green suiters who need to become proficient developers in the software. And you have a generation of green suiters whose first interaction with the software is going to be with AIFDE. They're going to be superheroes on day one. I think it's accelerating adoption, it's accelerating understanding, like the depth of adoption. Not just are you using it, but how much of it are you really using? How much of it can you understand? And then quickly on your comment on the U.S. government business, like, yeah, the number of opportunities out there are great. I can't comment on all the opportunities you mentioned there.
Sure, you can't.
NGC2, the continued growth of Maven. I mean, we have, of course, America's involved with 3 conflicts right now in the world, from Europe, the Middle East, and in our own hemisphere right now.
That's right.
And things are getting a little spicy in Africa.
But by the way, let me say something slightly political, and I'm not saying other people agree with this, but when people are attacking our soldiers for stopping fentanyl from coming to this country, I want people to remember, if fentanyl was killing 60,000 Yale grads instead of 60,000 working class people, we'd be dropping a nuclear bomb on whoever was sending it from South America.
Ooh.
So it's slightly like we in this at Palantir, we are on the side of the average American, who sometimes gets screwed because all the empathy goes to elite people and none of it goes to the people who are actually dying on our streets. And that's why, it's like when you have an open border, it means that the average poor American earns less. I know my fellow progressives believe having an open border is going to make things, but that's because they're actually repping elite people instead of the working class. And the same thing in South America, where it's like, to believe our Constitution does not give us the right to stop 60,000 deaths a year of working class men and women is insane. And this country is right to stop that, and I'm very proud. I don't know all the efforts we're involved in, but to the extent we're involved in these efforts, I and most Palantirians are very proud of this.
All right, I got to speak on that. Did you hear what he just said? This guy, not only is he passionate about his company and what they're doing, he's saying there's nothing shiesty going on here. We just stopped 60,000 Americans. We stopped fentanyl from coming into the country because 60,000 Americans are dying. He said, basically, he told you who was dying. He said, if 60,000 Yale graduates were dying of fentanyl every single year, then versus the 60,000 common working man, right, we'd be dropping nuclear bombs on them right now. That's another part of their company that I've never heard people talk about, is the elitism versus the classist aspect. Elites versus average working American. There's more average working Americans than there are elites, and he believes in the average working American. I do too. I'm just saying. I'm not the CEO, and he is.
You're here.
Thank you. Alex, as always, we have a lot of individual investors on the line. Is there anything you'd like to say before we end the call?
We're rocking along. Please turn on the conventional television and see how unhappy those that didn't invest in us are. Enjoy, get some popcorn. They're crying. We are every day making this company better, and we're doing it for this nation, for allied countries, and also for, and I never really like the term retail investors. How about sane people who put up their own money and fight for us? And by the way, you are fighting for the right side of what should work in this country. Meritocracy, lethal technology vis-a-vis adversaries, products that spread GDP to working class men and women by making their value creation higher. And by the way, your bank account. And thank you for that.
Thank you. That concludes Q&A for today's call.
All right, so that's Palantir's earnings call in the books, folks. Let me tell you, he just said their bank account, yep, it's helped fatten my bank account. You see it right here, 128 shares. There will be more. There will be more. It's 15% of my portfolio. Let's call it 16%. It's made me $8,300, 71% return. Yes, and I got it at an average of $90. Now, I saw it before that, and my first share was lower than that. I'm pretty sure of that. But look, you can look at the history. Like I found out about them when I found out about them. Look, September 2024. I saw them long before I bought it. But look, it was $37 when I first bought it. I'm not lying to y'all. Like I haven't known about them that long. I said 2 years, but I had been hearing about them for a little bit, but I just didn't invest in them. And man, imagine if I'd have put 100 at $37. See that? And this is how this stuff works, folks. So you can never go back in time. Also, what I wanted to say, Alex Karp. So Palantir, this company right here, they did this program where they hired students right out of high school because he was saying that college was such a waste of time. And I think it was about 16 high schoolers that got see, I'm trying to talk and I can't even spell right now. School. Oh, I'm missing the H right here. There we go. Internship. Here we go. So about 16 of them got a 12-week long, there it is, internship. And what happened after the internship, they hired like 3 to 4 of them. So he's not just saying that college is a waste of time. He's actually showing you, I'm going to bring my company out and I'm going to hire some of these high schoolers. So I'm going to show you, you can go straight from, it makes more sense to go straight from high school into the company that you're going to go. And then guess what? If they go if they have a high aptitude for it already, and they're already using AI and they already know how to do some stuff, because on their own, instead of playing video games, instead of going outside and running, instead of being inundated with so much sports and social media, they've already been software engineering and doing cybersecurity, and maybe they've earned some certifications or whatever. They put them into the company. Now, if they want them to earn a certain cert, they just put them in the class through the company and they pay for it. And guess what? You get a better employee that way too. So that's going to end it for us folks over here. I hope you enjoyed it. Palantir is a slam dunk company in my book. It's a slam dunk company in my portfolio. It's going to be in my portfolio, and it's going to gain traction in that portfolio. And I'm telling you, because it fell 25%, now is a good time to buy. But you don't have to believe me. You can wait for more results. No, I don't know where the bottom of the market is going to be during this downturn, but I know at 25% off, if you were walking through a dealership and saw that on a car that you wanted, you'd buy that one before you bought the one that was full price. I know if walking through Target and you saw clothes, linens, cereal, anything 25% off, you would be buying that before you bought the full price one. I'm just saying, invest in your stock like you would buy a car. If somebody had a house on the market for $1 million and then they reduced the price 25% to 750,000 and it was in your price range, I bet you buy that, except rather than buying the $1 million house. You have $1 million house that they dropped to 750, but would you still go and find another $1 million house just to say I paid $1 million? No, you wouldn't. But anyway, that's it for me. I will see y'all on the next one.